I've always been an alchemist, transmuting what remains after destruction, creating something new, hopefully infusing the innocence, love, and light that was lost, building with broken shards that make my hands bleed. Loss doesn't just come from death, but from what was supposed to be and never will. That feeling of grief swells, and then the almost unthinkable question hits. What next? Welcome to the Obliterated Place for all the brokenhearted, a space dedicated to creating something from the unrecognizable remnants of loss in its many forms. A place to witness one another's grief and choose to honor grief through our actions, big and small. I'm Kaye Steinsapier. Thanks for joining us today. Hello, and welcome back to the Obliterated Place with Kaye Steinsapier. I'm so excited. Today I'm here with one of my best friends, my breastie extraordinaire, Suzanne Baruch Asherson. Hi, Suzanne.
Hi, Kaye.
It's so great to have you.
Always.
I wanted to have Suzanne here as my first guest. I really thought long and hard about it. There's so many people I want to bring here to share their stories with you and to be an inspiration and talk about all the challenges that they've had and how they've dealt with them. Suzanne, I really wanted you to be here first because I admire you so much, and you have helped me as a model for me in how to take the very worst things that happen in life and make choices that are good in light of all the bad and that help others. So I am so happy to have you here.
I'm happy to be here with you.
So let's start by just explaining to our audience a bit about how we know each other. I was diagnosed, as many of you know, with stage 3B breast cancer in 2016, I believe it was. It's all starting to get fuzzy in my menopause, chemo-addled brain, grief-addled brain. But it was shortly after my son Eli was born, and that was the year he was born. So it's almost been 10 years for me. How long has it been for you?
Well, mine was 2013, so I'm coming up on 13 years. That's my 13.
Yeah, math is not our strong point.
Right now.
Yeah,
It was
but
at
yes,
one point.
but
No,
yes, it was never for me. It was never for me. I went to law school, so I would never have to do math ever again. So we both were diagnosed young,
Yeah.
young moms. When I found out I had cancer, I was breastfeeding Eli at the time. I had a little baby. Molly and Nate were, I think, 5 and 7, and I was just absolutely shocked and stunned, and as it always is, I think for most people, it just took me completely by surprise. I really didn't have much of a family history, certainly not of breast cancer, ovarian cancer. So I was just stunned, and I didn't know anyone who had breast cancer because, again, I was only 39, and I found out I had cancer just by feeling a lump that everyone assumed was a milk duct, and turned out to be very rapidly spreading invasive ductal carcinoma. And I asked my friend Julie, who is Suzanne's best friend, and I knew of Suzanne through Julie, but we hadn't met. I said, can I talk to your friend? Like, I just didn't know what to do. I was completely stuck and just devastated, and I just needed to talk to anyone who would have anything to tell me other than, I'm so sorry, you'll be okay. So I spoke to you, Suzanne, that very first night I was diagnosed, and you were so gracious to talk to me for what felt like hours. It probably actually was hours. And then to meet me for my first chemo. You did not know me, and you met me at UCLA and sat with me through my chemo. And that's just the person you are, that would take time to talk to a stranger you don't know, and to even go and meet someone you don't know and sit through chemo with them, which, as now I have the perspective to know how hard that is. Like, to the idea of, just being in a doctor's office is even hard for me. It's triggering. It's not easy to go back into that kind of environment after you've gone through cancer treatment. So that's in and of itself a big thing that you do, and it's such a gift. So thank you so much.
Always.
So talk, Suzanne, about your own like experience with cancer and your story basically. Let's introduce you more to our guests.
All right. So, my story with cancer has been in my family forever. My grandmother had passed away of breast cancer. Her mother, who I had not known, had breast and ovarian cancer. Um, my when I was, just approaching my senior year, no, my junior year of high school, my father was diagnosed with leukemia. And he had leukemia literally for a year and passed at 44 years old, which is crazy because I'm 44 years old now. And
Oh,
to like
yeah,
think about
it's
that
crazy.
is,
Yeah,
really
it
hard,
is.
that he only lived as long as I am right now, and I feel so
Mhm.
young.
You are.
Yes, we
You
are.
are. We are. Even me. I always forget my age. I always make myself a year older. I'm 48. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm so sorry. That is just painfully young.
Yeah, so after watching my father go through everything he went through for aggressive leukemia, I remember laying on my mom's bed and the whole like Angelina Jolie effect was kind of happening, you know? So she's a woman who has the BRCA mutation. And I remember looking at my mom and saying, "You know what, mom? Like we got to test for this because I cannot imagine watching another parent go through cancer. Like, we can't do this. Like, you
Mhm.
need to test. We think that there's a family history. Let's go do it." And so my mom tested for the gene, and sure enough, my family has the BRCA2 mutation. And she decided to take power into her hands, and she did prophylactic everything. That means for those that are not aware of that, she did mastectomies and an oophorectomy, or a hysterectomy so that her chances of getting breast or ovarian cancer would significantly diminish. And so she did that for her family. And, I look at my mom and here's a widow,
Mhm.
who had been with my father since they were in their 20s. And she's going through major life surgeries
Yeah.
to make sure she was there for all of us.
And she's still
And
here,
she's
and
still
she's
here,
amazing, and she looks wonderful, and she seems to
strong.
have such a joie de vivre. She seems to be somebody who lives a really rich, full, happy life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
As are you.
As
You are that type of person too, which is another reason why I love you so much, and I wanted you to be here.
well, I love you too because you're the same way. So this is,
I
we
try.
are we fit well together as friends.
We do.
So, anyways, once my mom tested positive, I decided I wanted to know if I had the gene too. And back then, you didn't want insurance to know,
Mhm.
so we actually paid cash, like under the table,
Mhm.
to go and to test for the gene. And
Which
sure
is so
enough,
awful, by the way, that we have to think about if insurance finds out we have a gene, they're not gonna give us insurance or cover us. It's just awful.
oh, yes. I mean, the
Mhm.
topic of insurance, we could go on and
I know,
on about
I
that
know.
one too.
That's another episode,
That's
a
another
follow-up.
episode, yes.
Okay.
Anyway, so I tested positive for the gene, and I'm very thankful that I decided to test for the gene because and I know that's kind of odd to say, like, I'm thankful or I'm lucky that I found out that I
Mhm.
had that gene because it if it wasn't for knowledge that I had that gene, I would not have found my cancer when I did. And why do I say that? Because I knew I had the BRCA2 mutation, I was afforded transvaginal ultrasounds and preventative MRIs to look for
Mhm.
cancer that you don't get if you don't know you have that gene now.
Okay, I have a question.
Yeah.
First, 2 questions. How old were you when you tested?
Okay, so I tested just out of college, so
Mhm.
what's that?
Early
20s.
20s.
Yeah, early 20s.
And then if you paid cash for the testing so
Mhm.
insurance wouldn't know, how did you manage to get the doctors to give you that additional care and still have it covered by insurance?
All right, so that's a great question. I became part of studies, and
Mhm.
so I was part of the Gilda Radner Foundation study at Cedars. So that is what afforded me all those preventative screenings that was covered within that study,
I see.
not through
I see.
insurance. And it's because of that study, actually, now that if you have the BRCA mutation, now all of those measures get paid for through insurance because of studies like the one I was in.
Incredible. Okay.
So I went through, I was doing all my preventative measures. I had my son. And my goal was at 35 years old, I am going to be just like my mom and I'm going to preventative measure everything and then just move forward with my happy life. Here I was, 32 years old. He had just finished breastfeeding. This is he was 16 months old when I was diagnosed. So I went for my preventative screenings and I went for my breast exam, can't feel anything. The doctor said, okay, go get your MRI. I'll see you in a year. And that MRI found something.
Mm.
And it took 3 ultrasounds to find it on an ultrasound. It was that small.
Wow.
And that was my breast cancer, and it had gone to a lymph node, and so I just remember my life changing, like, from thinking about, like, planning all the stuff of being a young mother, and date nights and, all those fun things to now thinking about, "Oh my goodness, what do I have to do?" Chemotherapy, double mastectomies, reconstruction,
Mhm.
33 rounds of radiation, a full hysterectomy with a 16-month-old baby
It
at
robbed us
32.
of some really, really precious time that we should have had to enjoy with our babies and, our family. And I mean, one of the things we obviously go through with cancer, with any serious illness, I'm sure, is anger or any form of grief. I just feel so much anger sometimes when I think about like, fuck, like, my whole 40s were, you know, consumed by just trying to stay alive. I mean, they didn't need to look hard to find my cancer. When they
Mhm.
flipped that ultrasound machine on, it was like toothpaste everywhere. It was like 3 tumors that were very visible, and when they looked under my arm, I mean, they just flipped it off. Like, Dr. Nanomi was just like, "Okay," and the look on her face was very grim. Not to interrupt, but, it just that's just one of the things about all of this. In some ways, it makes us better people. It makes us more empathetic and able to help so many people and all of those things. But it also took so much and changed everything. It's sort of, and that's the idea I have for this podcast. It's like being in the obliterated place after something transformational and monumental happens to you, and life as you expected it to be isn't that anymore and won't be that anymore. And so I think after your diagnosis, it's like you said, you expected to be a young couple with a new baby and enjoying all of that and moving forward and then eventually having the preventative surgeries like your mom, and that would be the end. And that future was not the future, and so you find yourself in this obliterated place of, like, now my life's kind of as I knew it is no longer, and now I have to move forward and create something, and what you've created with your life, is beautiful and so inspiring.
I call that moment, like, that change, right?
Mhm.
Our new normal.
Yeah.
Like, that's like, we had to think about, like,
Mhm.
"All right, life is different, but I still have to go on for my family," I still gotta put one foot in front of the other, pull up my big girl pants and
Yeah.
go, no
Yeah.
matter what I was going through. Like, I'm on that cancer train. We're playing
Mhm.
Cancerland,
Yeah.
instead of Candyland,
Yes.
but, like, gotta move that game piece forward. But as I'm moving it forward or going on that train forward, it's that new normal, you know?
Mhm. I remember a friend of mine that I met through at baby group. You and I were both in
Mhm,
Donna Halloran's baby group, which was an amazing, amazing resource for us as young parents and such a support for us when we both got sick and when I lost
mhm.
Molly. One of the people I met in that group later had glioblastoma, and she passed not too long ago. And I remember I was close with her, when she was going through her treatment, and I remember she said, that her family was like, Wait, when are we going back to normal? When are we going back?" And it's like, you're not going back. There's no going back, right? It's not possible to go back. And so now we're here in the new normal, and what do we do here?
Yeah, and how do we make that new normal beautiful despite being thrown in a nightmare that you hope you're gonna wake up from that nightmare, but you're not gonna wake up from that nightmare, you know? Like
And also being able to have space for times when you fucking hate the new normal and it's not
mhm,
beautiful and it's ugly and it sucks and you're angry and you don't wanna do anything, you know?
correct.
That's all part of it as well, you
Mhm,
know? So, you went on, you were diagnosed, you had Jay as a little 16-month-old baby,
mhm.
and
And I went through all of those surgeries and treatments and years of
Mhm.
7 years of medication, and still getting watched and screened and,
Yep, I have my annual visit with my oncologist coming up, and it never gets easier. There's so much anxiety and so many nerves, and I just hate it.
yes, and tests and
Yeah.
future procedures and future surgeries. Like
Mhm.
that new normal
Yeah.
is our new normals.
We were just talking about before we turned on the camera that, that you're planning to have another surgery in another year, and that'll be 14 years out from your diagnosis and still, another breast reconstruction surgery. It just never ends.
Never
This
ends.
is our new normal.
Yep.
This is our new normal. We're doing the very best we can, and I mean, it's amazing how many incredible people I've met along the way, starting with you, but then so many more. And I wanna have a lot of them here, on the podcast. Everyone's got a story to tell, and
Mhm.
we met our mutual friend, Erin Cummings. You tell the story of how we met Erin because I think
Oh,
it's an
that's a
interesting
fun
one.
one.
Yeah.
So on Kay's first day of chemo, when I went to go be with you, my nurse from where I had chemo at Tower, she was now at UCLA, Mary Lou. Love Mary Lou. And so she was the head nurse for like the floor of chemo. And so I went up to Mary Lou and I'm like, "Hey, Mary Lou, like, I see that there's like another woman who looks close to Kay in my age. Like, do you mind? Can I just go introduce myself? Like, maybe she needs a breastie." And so Mary Lou's like, that's fine, Suzanne. So I walk over and this young woman is passed out asleep. And what we now know is Tom, her husband next to her, passed out asleep. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess I can't go say hi. I'm not gonna go wake her up,
Yeah.
You don't wake up a sleeping baby, you don't wake up a woman in chemo, you know?
I know.
And so, life just continued to move on until one day Mary Lou said to me, "Hey, Suzanne, I have this woman that I would like to meet for you to meet." And all of my doctors, all of my nurses knew that like I to this day I will talk to anyone.
Mhm.
My husband has nicknamed me the cancer concierge. It doesn't matter who it is, where you live, I will stop everything
Mhm.
and be there for you,
It's incredible, and
you
I
know?
try my darndest to pay forward what you did for me, and, I too have followed in that path and done the same. Yeah, it's funny, I can't even imagine sleeping during chemo. I am
Right.
not someone that can sleep anywhere. I can't sleep on a plane,
Yes,
whatever.
but Kay, hold on. We couldn't sleep. We were wearing
Yeah,
5-pound ice helmets on our head. All
true.
right, okay, we just
That's
got.
true.
I want the viewers to like visualize this. So
Yes.
first of all,
Yeah.
before they put an ice helmet on us, they cover our heads with
Maxi pads.
maxi pads. All right, to prevent frostbite.
It's insane.
Okay,
Panty liners, yes,
so at least
uh-huh.
there was some laughter in like
Yeah.
at the beginning of chemo.
Mhm.
Like look in the mirror and like
Yeah.
maxi pads on
Kinda
our
crazy that
forehead.
they haven't figured out something else. Maybe they have by now, but yeah.
Maybe. Anyway, so we're wearing these 5-pound ice helmets to preserve our hair. Did it preserve all of our hair? No, but at least it wasn't the first thing that we thought about at least for me, like the first millisecond of looking in the mirror in the morning, I didn't
Right.
think about cancer.
Yeah.
The second second I did, but like I didn't think about cancer because I had some of my curls.
Mhm.
Anyway, so I don't think we slept through it because every 30
That's true.
minutes they're changing our ice helmet.
That's true.
But our dearest
Oh,
friend Erin, she was not wearing an ice helmet. So I think she was able to just kind of, taking that Benadryl or whatever
that's true.
Ativan that, cocktail they gave her and like knock herself out. So back to the story of Erin though. So I said, okay, Kay, I have Mary Lou wants us to meet this woman. Like, I don't know who she is. Let's go. And so we showed up I think we went to the Larder or
That's right, yeah, we had brunch or
AOC.
something, that's right.
Yep, in Brentwood. And here's this woman coming up, and I look at her and I'm like, wait a second. I'm like, we did the math. We're looking at calendars. I'm like, you're the passed out woman from the chemo center. And sure enough, that
She
was Erin.
was, yep, and she has become like a sister to us too,
Yep.
and I can't imagine my life without you or without Aaron, without any of this, so in that sense, I feel like it is meant to be for me, it was meant to be for me that this was going to be my reality and was meant to be my
Mhm.
reality, and I genuinely feel like there's no way I could have gone through, losing Molly and surviving that if I hadn't first gone through cancer and faced my own mortality,
Mhm.
and, I mean, I was just absolutely petrified of dying, leaving my kids without a mom, and, I mean, it's a cruel twist that I'm survived and Molly, who was perfect, who never had a serious injury, never had anything, was killed, and but I definitely I feel like I had to go through all of that, to be able to withstand the process of going through, and it's a lifelong process, obviously, of losing her, and I remember thinking, because everyone treats you differently when you are in that situation, and I think we remind them of their worst fears, and their vulnerabilities. So, when I lost Molly, a lot of people avoided me, and they
Mm.
stopped talking to me, and they gave me strange looks, and it just feels so much worse when you're already going through the worst, and they don't mean to. I don't think people mean to, but I experienced the same with cancer, and I know you know what this is
Yeah.
like, right? That, like, some people surprise you, some people are there for you that you don't expect to be, and then others aren't there, and then yet others, I don't even think they realize they're doing it, but they just give you a strange pitying look, or it's almost like it's catching, you know?
Mm, mhm,
I
mhm,
especially remember it around school pickup and stuff like that, and that's one reason I was happy that I had some of my hair because it wasn't as obvious. I could go places and not everyone knew, of course, everyone at school knew,
mhm.
and it just felt awful.
Yeah. Oh, I remember the same thing, whether it was cancer or the death of my father, and like you just said, some people that you expect to be there can't or won't. And then other people are. And then there's people that you don't even know, like, and that's really at this point with the cancer,
Yeah.
like there's so many people that we don't know that were there for us, and now we're there for so many women that we may not have even met.
I love that, Suzanne and I, we have a Facebook group, and we just sort of used that to kind of organize because we had so many different women in our lives, and we try to connect people. Oh, this person should meet this person because they're both going through something similar, and so we kind of, as just an organizing tool, set up the Facebook group, and I'm always just kind of amazed that, we're both pretty far along out the process, and others are just beginning, they're newly diagnosed, and others are a year or 2 in, and
Mhm,
that people through our community, that, we created and that we nurture find their own chemo buddy. They find their own person, in that, and I just feel like that is some of I don't even wanna call it work, like, just part of my life that I'm really gratified by.
it's one of our ways that we pay it forward, is by being that connector and creating that community of positivity throughout the negativity,
Yeah.
like people are there to uplift each other and not just uplift each other, but to be there and be like, I get it. It sucks, like because when you go through death, when you go through sickness, when you're with your friends, when you're with your family, when you're with your husband, when you're with your parents, your siblings, like, you need to put on that happy face because you wanna put on that happy face for them. But when you could have somebody that has been there, or
Mhm.
someone you've never met before, and you could be real with them and know that they understand and they've been there too, it's helpful.
It I think it's like a life raft. It's
Yeah.
like you need it so much because if no one can understand. I mean, like, no one understands like someone who is going through it or has been through it.
Mhm.
So I just feel like we all need that, and I'm really happy we can kind of be connectors for people. I think a lot of people want to help, but they feel they can't, or they're
Or they don't
afraid
know.
of saying the wrong thing or
Mhm.
upsetting you or
Yeah.
something, you know?
But I think there's a simple answer to that. For people that are listening who are like, "Okay, well, what can I do? How can I help somebody?" It's as simple as instead of phrasing things like, "How can I help you?" or, "What can I get you?" Sometimes those open-ended questions are hard, but just showing up with, like, a bag of their favorite snacks, or some fresh fruit or, showing up with cookies at someone's doorstep, and leaving it there with a note goes a long
It goes a
way.
very
Or
long
just a
way.
text message, you don't know what to say, like, "Hey, I reach out to you all the time.
Mhm.
You're on my mind." I'll just be like, "Thinking of you," or "Love you," or, like, just something little.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's no I think sometimes people feel like, they feel like they've waited too long. I know that that was true for
Mm,
me, like, with Molly, that there were people who wanted to say something or be there, and they felt like they waited too long, and there was no expiration date on something like that. And in fact, the people who come along later are really, welcome because a lot of people who are there in the beginning fall off. They fall
mhm.
off. Everyone's coming in the beginning, and I mean,
Yep.
honestly, I was in such, like, shock that I didn't even know who was coming or what they were doing, and I mean, I was just in complete, utter shock. So, the people who then kind of it's a long process, so you kind of need someone else to take the baton and come in and just step in, so you're not late, you're actually right on time.
And also, like, I remember my sorority besties, like, going out for dinner, and obviously, just as much as I was punched in the gut with my cancer diagnosis, they were punched in the gut too, like, they felt it. And I remember, like, being out at a Mexican restaurant with them, and they just wanted to be there for me, and they wanted to hear everything that I was going through and the next steps and I specifically, like, remember looking around the table and saying, "Okay, girls, I'm going to tell you everything that's happening with my life right now and what I think's coming up and how I feel, but I'm gonna only do that through the appetizers. So
Yes,
once those
yes,
appetizers are done, we
yes.
are going around the circle and I wanna hear about all of your stuff. The good, the
Yeah.
bad, the shit, I wanna hear it all because, like,
Mhm.
sometimes people don't wanna even tell you the good things
Yeah.
because they're like, "Oh,
Mhm.
her life is so hard right now, like, I don't wanna tell her the happy things or what they perceive as their problems." Like, I get it, like, I wanna hear all that too, like, don't compare to you can't
Yes.
compare.
Yeah, I'm like, "I absolutely wanna hear about the fight with your husband, please, by
Yes.
all means." Like, you're the same person, of course, and those things are welcome distractions too.
Mhm.
Being treated differently is so hard. It's so hard. I think, the best thing is to just show up. Like Erin, we talked about our friend Erin. After Molly died, she would just come to my house every Sunday and clean out the refrigerator because she knew
Yep.
that people were sending all this food and it wasn't getting eaten, or some of it was and other stuff wasn't. Or, we had things in the freezer. So she would like inventory, okay, now this is coming out of the freezer and going into the refrigerator. This is your meal plan for the week. 'Cause I just didn't have it in me to do that. It became a thing where it's just like, okay, I just knew I had that to look forward to. Like every Sunday, Aaron and Tom will be here, and the cleaning of the refrigerator was a small thing in comparison to them just being there, and that's it. You're just there. You show up. Don't ask how you can help.
No.
Just do something.
Yeah. Do the dishes.
Do the dishes. Yeah, exactly, exactly. I remember my friend Tara, who I grew up with in Fresno, she came in the middle of Molly being in the hospital, and she just happened to show up at the worst possible time. She showed up when Molly took this turn for the worse. Everyone thought she was gonna be okay, and suddenly she wasn't, and she had this brain swelling, and they went from being very optimistic to being very dire, and she just happened to be there during that, and she came home with me and John from the hospital because we were just waiting to hear what was gonna happen with the surgery. Molly was undergoing, yet another brain surgery, and she was there with us, and I know how hard it was for her. She's like, "I just feel awkward, I can leave." I said, "No," I said, "It takes a really special person." I just remember, and I don't even know how I even had the words to articulate this to her at the time, but I do remember telling her, "It takes a really special person to just sit with someone in their pain, and I don't want you to leave." And she's a very sensitive person. I know she went in the bathroom and cried her tears, and then she came out, and she just went and started I thought of it because she went in the kitchen, started doing some dishes, and she said, "John, can I make you a quesadilla?" Because we had
Mm.
no food in the house. We had a quesadilla fixings on the tortillas and cheese, and I just remember him looking up, and he was just gutted. I mean, in the absolute worst moment a human being can experience, like, and he's just looked at her and, like, he just said, "Yeah, that would be really nice." It was just, like, such a simple gesture, but it was nourishing, and it was just, like, it was so beautiful and so simple,
Mhm.
you know?
And it stayed with you.
Oh, I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
Just like I'll never forget that first night I talked to you, or that first chemo. I mean, that those things are terrifying. Going into a chemo
Ugh.
ward and, like, being around all these other people who are getting chemo, most of them are old.
I was gonna say,
Um,
you're the youngest one walking
yeah,
in,
the youngest by far. I
and
mean,
then
I
they
didn't
really look at you like, "Oh, that poor thing."
So, I mean, those moments, it's hard for me now because, cancer used to be, like, such a huge thing in my life, and Molly's passing has made it smaller.
Mhm.
Like, I don't think about it as much because I'm not afraid of dying at all. I don't wanna die of cancer. I don't wanna die anytime soon, but, like, I'm looking forward to dying, which sounds really weird, but I'm gonna be so happy when I get to be with Molly again, and I feel bad even thinking or saying that because I wanna be here with my boys and with John, but I don't have any fear of death anymore at all. So cancer doesn't scare me, it doesn't occupy my thoughts like it used to. Um, and it's strange because, like, my cancerversary just passed in November, and I forgot. Someone else reminded me, a friend, and I said, "Oh my gosh, that's right." And how could I forget? That used to be, like, burned in my
Yep.
brain.
This happened to me too.
It's wild. I
Wild.
never thought, and we talk about this too, when I was going through cancer, when I was very sick, and also, my prognosis was not great. Like, they were not sure if my cancer was curable because I had so much lymph node involvement, and my cancer was very aggressively spreading. My prognosis was unclear, and I didn't have a complete response to chemo. There was still cancer after I had chemo. So, it was really, really scary. And I remember John telling me, like, "Hey," because I sometimes was becoming, like, just sort of catatonic, like, you know, not for long, because I could never stay like that for long because I had my kids. Like you, it's like I
Mhm.
just couldn't. I had to keep going. But I would have moments sometimes where I would just start to getting in a really dark place. And he's like, You have to chin up. Like, you have to just keep going, and one of
Mhm.
these days, you're gonna be like Suzanne, and you're gonna be helping people. You're gonna be through this. You're gonna be well, and you're gonna be helping other women. And I was like, I just remember that he might as well have been saying to me, like, "Hey, one of these days, you're gonna be on the moon walking around, in a spacesuit." Like, I thought
Ah.
that was insane to me in that moment. Like, I don't even know if I'm gonna live, let alone I'm gonna be like Suzanne, a cancer concierge helping, like, hundreds of strangers. I just thought it was wild and a completely preposterous thought.
And
And
fast forward.
fast forward, it has come to pass, and
Yes.
I think it's a thing that can give people hope, right? That things change. Like, even if you're in that catatonic, horrible, dark place that seems just like you can't imagine even getting out of it, or that you're ever gonna feel good again, or that you're ever gonna have a day where you wake up and you don't immediately think, "I had, cancer," you
Or
know?
you go to bed that night
Yeah.
and not think about cancer that whole
Right.
day. Like,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Yeah. But it
You know?
comes to pass, and
But
so
it
I hope
comes.
people know that, maybe they see us, now years out from our
Mhm.
diagnosis and doing well, and they understand, cancer's not the first thing that we think about, and sometimes we don't think about it at all day long, or sometimes a whole week
Correct.
goes by.
Or sometimes you forget your cancerversary,
Yeah, that's true.
you know? But
That's
I
true.
think also part of us being there for others and how those people were there for us too, it's also just it's all part of our journey. It's part of our healing process. Like, we're always still healing for what we've been through, and being there for others and being able to share my story and being invited here to talk about,
Mm.
loss and death and cancer, like, that's part of the healing process
Absolutely, absolutely. I
and
mean,
paying it forward.
yeah, people will say to me, because 'cause I'm like you, I'll stop what I'm doing anytime and talk to someone who's newly diagnosed, and because
Yeah.
people know that I get
I
these
mean,
calls, all the time, and
I'm gonna pause you for a
yeah.
second. Not just talk to them, Kay. I mean, we are one to go into a bathroom or in the corner of a room, be like, "You wanna touch? You wanna feel? You wanna
Yeah.
see the cleavage? Like,
Yes,
what do you
yes.
want?"
Well,
So,
we're open books,
we're
that's
open
right,
books.
and especially, I mean, my God, when you've gone through breast cancer treatment, I mean, you have your breasts out all the time. There's no more, modesty. If you
No,
had any, it has to
it's
go
gone.
away. The funniest thing happened to me, it was after I had gone through the bulk of my cancer treatment, and I went to a doctor for something completely unrelated to breasts, and I don't remember what it was. It had nothing to do with that, and they left the room, and they came back, and I was topless, and they were like, "What?" I said, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry." Like,
Oh, no. You're like, "Oh, you're right
I'm
here."
on autopilot, like, when I go to a doctor, I just immediately, like, get my boobs out. I'm sorry. Forgive me. Carry on. I don't remember what it was like, I think it was, like, to do with my feet. I don't something
Oh my god,
completely
Kay, I've
unrelated.
never knew this story about it. That's
It
hysterical.
happened because you just, like, I don't know, and especially it's weird with breast cancer because it's like, my breasts now are completely numb. It's like they're not even part of it's hard to even feel like they're part of your body really, you know? Like, I had implants put in after, first, you have all the tissue removed. Then I had expanders, these god awful expanders that are like an iron lung, like, you have these
Mhm.
things in for months to, like, stretch the skin, and there's an implant under it. It's just horrible,
Yeah.
absolutely horrible.
It's like tightening your braces,
It's
but
like
your whole
tightening your
chest.
yeah,
Or
that's
yeah.
right, it's awful, and you think, "When is this torture ever gonna end?" I was what was I at recently? Having some little minor thing done, and they were like, maybe blood drawn or shot or something, and the person was like, "Oh, I know what it was." No, it wasn't. It was I was having this micro-channeling done to my face, like some kind of, like it's like microneedling, but micro-channeling, some thing that, like, makes your skin look younger. Because now that
Okay.
I'm approaching 50, I have to do what I can. And they were, like, so concerned about the pain. I'm like, I went through cancer treatment, like, I have a really high threshold for
Mhm.
pain at this point. Plus having, like, 3 babies and all of that, like, women have a high threshold in general, and then when you go through something like cancer, it's like, it makes you tough.
Makes you tough. I remember saying to a breast cancer friend of mine, I'm like, "I want you to know, cancer is tough, but you are tougher, so just remember
You
that."
are always, like, the cheerleader, always. I mean, I always knew, like, in my bad moments, I could I could call you and you would, like, talk me off the ledge, you know? Like, I had a lot of them, especially, like, I didn't get a complete response to chemo, or, the doctors would say things to me that were scary. And that's another thing about cancer. It's like or anything for that matter, like with the fires too, all of a sudden this horrible thing happens to you, a diagnosis, your town burns down, your child has a traumatic brain injury, and you're like in shock and you can barely even like put a sentence together. And people are speaking to you in this new language that you don't speak.
Mhm.
Like when I was suddenly diagnosed with breast cancer, I was like, what? You might as well be speaking like Chinese to me. I have no idea what you're talking about. And there's this like assumption that you understand. They speak to you in medical jargon, and we need each other to like translate and sort of explain what these acronyms mean and these shorthands and these tests. And there's just so much you need to know that doctors don't tell you. Like, for example, icing fingers and toes.
Oh my gosh.
You need to know that because if you don't ice your fingers and toes, the chemo drugs will make them like not work properly, get neuropathy, make your fingernails turn black and
Yes,
fall
but do you
off.
remember
I
your
didn't
first
know that.
chemo for that? Yes,
Yeah.
and so I
Nobody
went to
told
the
me.
Oh, hello, hold on
You
a
told
second.
me.
I told you, and I said to the nurse, "Okay, where's the ice for her fingers and her
Yeah.
toes?" And she's like, "Oh, we don't do that here. This is not Beverly Hills." And I looked at her, I'm like, "Well, we're in Santa Monica, but I don't care where you live. You could live anywhere. Does
Yeah.
anybody want their fingernails and their toenails to fall off? Do you want neuropathy? Let's go find some ice for the girl." And I went searching, and I was finally, and the
Yeah.
lady that was did your cold cap. She's
Yeah.
like, "We got it covered." And so we iced your fingers and your toes, and
And I was fine. And
and we were fine.
I did not. Erin didn't know, and hers fell off.
Correct. I mean,
What
come
the hell?
on.
What the hell? Like, how do we not know this? How do they not tell us this?
It's just ice.
It's insane.
And I'm
There's
sure they would bill insurance for ice, but bill it, whatever.
there's a million things like that we I mean, not only that, I mean, talking about fingers and toes, not toenails not falling off, not toes themselves, but toenails.
Yeah.
But like even medically, there were things I found out from you that I was
Oh,
not getting from my team,
yeah.
and they were great. I mean, I had world-class doctors, some of the best doctors in the world at UCLA, and there were things that they just never mentioned to me. So I would then say to them, "Oh, my friend is getting Zometa, so that cancer doesn't spread to her bones. What's that? Oh, would you like to get that?" I'm like, "Yeah, I would like to get that. I don't care. Like, I don't know what it's involved, but if it's going to prevent me from getting, uh, you know, metastases to my bones, yes, I would. Please, thank you. Please sign me
Mhm.
up." I mean, it's unreal how you have to advocate for yourself and how you need friends
Yes.
to tell you, otherwise you don't know.
And you need friends who have been obliterated
Yeah.
to be able to help the others so that
Yes.
they're, in their obliteration, if
Yes.
that's the
Yeah.
right terms.
It's the right terms.
You
Yeah,
know,
it's like being in this place, this obliterated place where everything as you knew it is no longer there. And now we're in a new place, and this new place is scary
Mhm.
and it's unrecognizable. But here we are. And so having people who have been through it, it's like a light, that
Yeah.
shining a light in that dark place and being like, okay, now I can start to see again. I can start to put my hands out and feel and orient myself somehow.
And
It makes me mad thinking about that. That like, I mean, my God, maybe I wouldn't even have survived if. I mean, there are several things I asked my team for that if I had not asked for them, I honestly think I might not have had the same outcome. I am not sure that I would be
Mhm.
no evidence of disease today. And I mean, people think, okay, you went through cancer and now it's gone and now you're fine. And that's never the case. Absolutely never the case. Not only because of all the things that you live with and the way you've changed mentally and physically. I mean, we're like old ladies inside of our bodies because we don't have any estrogen. So all of our joints and all of our, everything, our brains even because of
Cloudy,
we're
dry,
we're we're
anywhere,
we're
everywhere.
dry. Remember when we were gonna do the run at UCLA and Erin, we were trying to come up with a name for our team.
Oh
And she
gosh.
wanted our shirts and our team to be called the Dry Vaginas. And you didn't want it, remember?
I'm like, "No, there's be pressed there. We are not going
There's
around with
gonna
that
be press.
shirt.
It would be
I'm like,
funny.
I'm in charge of that run.
Oh my god, the dry vaginas, that was hilarious. Yeah, so there's that, but then there's also I mean, I don't know about you, but, like, for me, I have, like, a lifetime risk of recurrence that doesn't ever change. I have like, approximately 30% chance of recurrence at any given time. I just have to live with that. And some cancers I know are different, like, people with triple negative, I think once they reach a certain point, their risk is considered to be substantially diminished, although their risk at the beginning is much greater. So, I know in my situation, I just have to live with the fact that I have that recurrence, eh, forever. Unless, there are so many I do see a lot of, things about advances and breakthroughs that may change that, which is
Mhm,
exciting. And that's what we share too in our group, which we would not know about. I mean, otherwise, I'm learning from the people who are currently going through treatment. In fact,
mhm.
I have my annual coming up, and I'm going to ask for new genetic testing because I read through the group that they've identified new genes. Because when I did the genetic testing, mine came back negative.
Mhm.
So there was, and people think, there's oftentimes a gene. Oftentimes there is not a gene.
Mm-mm.
Most people do not have a
Yep.
gene, or at least a known gene, right? Now they've identified some more, so I'd like to update my testing. But they wanna have a people want there to be a reason, right? I just saw this recently. I saw this story, I don't know if you read about this. A young family was biking in Playa del
Oh,
Rey.
yes.
Tragic, horrific story. A young mother,
Good
7 months
grief.
pregnant, was
2
killed,
babies
and
already.
two
2
young
little
sons,
ones.
2
Yeah.
toddlers, and her husband were there, and as is often the case with the internet, like, people write things that are just not thoughtful. And one of the things I noticed one woman
Uh-uh.
in particular commenting, well, why was she writing at night? I don't even know if she was writing at night, but, and
Why was she riding the bike
what
pregnant?
about a helmet? She wasn't wearing a helmet or something. She was wearing a helmet, but it's like people, they're so afraid. Like these things make them afraid for their own mortality, their own vulnerability, and they look immediately the brain tries to find things like I mean, we went through this with Molly, it's
Sure.
like people thought, "Is she wearing a helmet?" They wanna know that, It's like they wanna tell themselves, "If only I wear a helmet, I'll be okay. If only I if only this, if only that," and it's just not
Eh,
true.
but you don't you just don't know what life's gonna bring you, you
Yeah.
know? Like, my right after my father passed, 10 months later, his mother so my abuela, 'cause my dad's family's Cuban, so my grandmother, 10 months later, killed by a drunk driver in the middle of daylight,
Oh
wearing
my god.
seatbelts, you
Unreal.
know? And my grandfather survived, and my grandmother did not, you
Right.
know? Like,
Yeah.
you just
That's life. That's the human condition, and sometimes there's nothing you did or nothing you could have done. And there's no I think especially around, like, child loss, there's a stigma around it's not supposed to happen, that it's unnatural for that to happen, and the fact is it does happen, and it's happened throughout human history, and there is no, you know, guarantee that anybody has any amount of time. And I think one of the things I've taken from my cancer experience and Molly's death is just, like, an appreciation for just how fleeting it all is and how it can just be over or or
uh,
or obliterated and changed in a way that you don't recognize and that can happen at any moment.
and any second.
And it's
That
scary.
one phone call for me,
That's right.
that one phone call for you.
Yes. And so it's scary to realize that, but that in fact is the case for all of us at
Yeah.
any moment. And it has been the case at any moment. And oftentimes, the things we worry about are not the things that happen. Like, I was a chronic obsessive worrier about everything. I was a hypochondriac. I was worried about my kids. I imagined all the worst case scenarios. When I was in high school, I was convinced I had AIDS and I was terrified to get tested. And I would stare at my hands. All my high school friends will know that I used to I read that there are rashes that develop on your hands and feet. So I would oh my God, I think I have a rash. Like, I worried about so many things. When I was driving, Eli and Nate had really bad allergies and we were at a doctor in Long Beach. So I had to drive that long drive on the freeway to Long Beach very frequently. I would sometimes pull over. The kids would be rear facing. And if they were asleep too long, if they were quiet too long, if they weren't moving, I would pull off the 405 freeway and pull over and, like, look back there and, of course, wake them up in the process because they thought they were, like, expired.
Mm.
Just whatever. I thought maybe the seatbelt wasn't right, and it was too tight on them, and maybe they weren't breathing. I mean, just everything, and none of that ended up being the case. And so when I did have cancer, I remember I was with my best friend Leslie, that I work with, who's like a sister to
Mhm.
me, and she was like, "Hey, I'm sure it's not," because she had been through this with me thinking all these other things, you know? And now I realize, God, it was wasted energy. God, I wish I hadn't done that, you know? Like, I wish I hadn't spent so much of my time and mental capacity and life on these worries, and even about cancer recurrence.
Yeah.
You know, I worried so much and feared, like, "Oh my god, my back is hurting," you know, "That's it. It's over.
Oh, yep. Oh, I got a
That's
pimple.
it.
That must be cancer
That's it."
again.
I mean, and I just it's our time is so short and so precious, and the worrying just drains your battery, and it doesn't matter anyway because whatever happens is probably not gonna be what you worried about.
Yeah, or take your worry and try to figure out what to do with that worry. So, like, for those that are listening to us talk and we're talking about our breast cancer or my family history with breast cancer, like, and if now you're thinking, oh my goodness, I think I'm feeling a little worried about this,
Right. That would be me. I
you
would do
know,
that, yeah.
what do you do?
Mhm.
Like, I think there's like, you don't just want to shut off your worry all the time. So, like, I'll never forget, just like a few months ago, I went back to my alma mater at USC, and I'm an ambassador for a charity called Sharsheret. And I speak to, I share my story. And so I happened to be on, sorority fraternity row back in my old stomping grounds. And I shared my story with about 300 college students. And I had some students come up to me afterwards and say, Suzanne, I have a family history. There's family history of cancer. And they would say, not just breast and ovarian, but maybe there's lung involved or brain or some other cancers. And they're like, but it's dating back. Like, I never knew that there could be a genetic component. And because you came and you spoke to us today, I'm gonna go get tested. So, like, if this conversation is creating any worries for people, especially around the breast cancer
Mhm.
world, and you're like, I have a history, or maybe, like, go get checked, go get
Mhm.
that blood work done. Or maybe you don't have a history, but you're like, wait a second, I put off that mammogram because I was scared.
Right, yeah,
The
you better
time is
do it.
now.
The time is
The
now.
time is
The
now.
time is now, so you do it everything you can, and then you leave it alone, I think, right? I mean,
Mhm.
you do everything you can, you have to be proactive. I was the captain of my own football team that was my incredible medical team. I was in charge,
Mhm.
and I that was not always comfortable for everyone involved because they were like, what?" Like, I was supposed to, as you know, was on a clinical trial,
Yep.
and my clinical trial was canceled, and I found out because my oncologist called me on my cell phone right as I was waking up from, some surgery, my mastectomy,
Mhm.
reconstructive surgery, whatever, and I'm waking up, I'm in a fog, and my oncologist is calling my cell phone. I'm like, "Not the nurse practitioner, but
Mhm.
Dr. Hurvitz?" And so I pick up and she says, "I'm so sorry, like, your clinical trial has been canceled. We actually can tell you now that you are on the placebo." um, arm of the thing. So I would have been doing that for 2 years and not getting the drug. So as it turned out, the you know, I tried to get on another study. I couldn't because there are all these different parameters around studies. And they were like, "Sorry, I guess you're just out of luck. You're not gonna get that drug," which, by the way, is now standard of care for someone with my level of disease. It would now be standard of care, but at that time, it was only for stage 4 patients, and it was being studied for stage 3 patients like me. And I was like, "I don't care. I'm getting that drug. I don't care what you have to do, what I have to do. That drug exists, and you told me that, it would benefit me in your view and increase my likelihood of survival. So I don't care what we're doing, but we're getting that drug. I don't care how." And they were just like, "Okay, we'll be back to you." And they did. And they got it. And I took it. And it cost $16,000 a month, and we had to get insurance to cover it. But, I was never willing to just accept being told, "Well, sorry, you're out of luck." I would always
Yeah,
say,
don't tell Kaye or Suzanne no
"No,
to anything.
no,
We don't do well with
no, no,
that.
no." It's like I was just like, "Try again, try another way." And my friend Nadine, who I was so close with, who was just an absolute angel on earth and died of breast cancer, of triple negative breast cancer. I remember saying, Nadine was very, very, very religious. She was a strong Christian, and she said, "I think, that was a miracle that you found out you were on the placebo and now you got the
Mhm.
drug. Like, I really feel like that was God, working for you." And Nadine was so sick, and I was close with her through her entire process. She was a couple years behind me at UCLA Law School. We just loved each other from the moment we met, and she had triple negative breast cancer that was not responsive to any treatment. And I was with her through the process of her dying, and I remember her saying it was in a text message, and I saved it, and I still look at it, that she didn't know how anyone could get through this world without faith because it's just so hard and it's so cruel sometimes. And I think about that, and that's a longer conversation we'll have in another episode about spirituality and faith. But I've gone back to that many times and been reminded to deepen my own faith. And her son, who was a little boy when he was losing his mom to cancer, had said to her, and she shared this with me in a text as well, which I also look back and read from time to time and think about them, that, his love was stronger than his fear of losing her in so many words. It's like, I'm so scared, but my love is bigger than how scared I am. And I just thought that was so beautiful. And I just think about her all the time. And so maybe as we close, I would like to just remember Nadine and honor her and all the ones we lost along the way. Most most of our breasties, most of the people in our group are doing great, but a lot of people still die of this disease. And so maybe as we close, we can just honor them.
I think that's a beautiful way. So, well, thank you for having me here with you, Kaye. Our friendship is definitely a silver lining to my life journey. More than silver. I think you're like my rose gold lining.
I agree. The feeling is mutual. I love you. I'm just honored to know you, and I'm excited for anyone who is watching or listening to see you and just be inspired by just the good energy that you radiate, and you are always willing to help people and give. You bake challah and you bake another bread for somebody else, and you just give and give and give, and I think it comes back, and, it's just such a beautiful thing to witness, and, you inspire me every day.
Likewise. Well,
Alrighty.
cheers to
Cheers to us,
us.
babe. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this episode of The Obliterated Place. Until next time, I'm your host, Kaye Stein-Sapir.
Resonate.